Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where three cycling nerds, well, two cycling nerds and one professional cycling journalist discuss what's been happening in the week. And of course, the Olympic road race is in this edition, very special one. But Mr. Gregor himself, Ewan Wilson of The Cyclist, I guess, and Patrick Blake of Outdo Cycling as well. So a lot of cycling there. But anyways, the Olympics, have you enjoyed it so far? Well, we talked about it last week, but now we have another week. It seems like it's just fencing and judo.
Oh, honestly, the last swimming event was...
Oh my God, yeah, swimming. They have about the medley has been on 16 times in different distances.
It's like, if you want to win the Olympics, if you're trying to get into the Olympics, invest in swimming, basically. If you want good return, go for that. Or gymnastics, or whatever, yeah. In terms of the cycling, because obviously this is a cycling podcast, so I'm going to focus in on that. It's been a kind of like a domination of one nation, I guess you could say, the expected nation. There's the TT this week. Bro, I can barely even remember. Wow. This has been a long week. Obviously,
I think we talked about it last week, the TT, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, the TT. The disappointing thing, obviously, was that Tarling probably would have got a medal, but he had a mechanical. It was a sketchy old day, and everybody was falling over, seemingly. Even the mechanics. That was in the women's one, though. That was quite a good meme, though. I always find the national stuff a bit weird. World Champs is included in that, and European Champs, where it always gets a little bit cagey, and you just get a solo victor, a little bit of a flat finish, you know? It's a little bit, okay, I kind of know who's winning from 30 minutes out. But, it's been decent, nonetheless. Very good spectacle around the Cyclica and stuff like that.
It's been a fascinating week at the Olympic Games. We're now into the athletics. As we record, the men's 100 meters final is going to be in the next sort of hour. Léon Marchand has absolutely dominated swimming.
Did you not hear what Patrick said? This is a cycling podcast. We're not a swimming podcast.
And also to sprinkle in controversy, not even controversy, J.K. Rowling decided to make transphobic comments towards an Algerian boxer. Wonderful, wonderful week of news in the Olympic Games, and it's only going to get better. Are
you just trying to make this start? We're going to get a lot of comments for this start because of you
already.
Yeah, exactly.
All I'm going to say is...
do you want me to go back to the start? Cycling podcast.
Okay, but nevertheless, the road races were pretty good. If there's ever been an advertisement to not have a Champs-Élysées sprint stage, that was it. Let's stop putting the Champs-Élysées sprint stage into the Tour de France and have them go up this kind of route. The fans were there. It was super cool. Nils Pollitt had a wee in the restaurant where the film Amelie is shot. I thought that was a weird sort of word coincidence whilst he was racing. I think it's the Café des Deux Moulins. Nevertheless, it was good. Women's race is also really exciting. I think the men's race was decent, but I think once Remco made that move and it got to about 40 seconds, then it was pretty inevitable he was going to win. And he was slowly dropping everyone in that group, and you could see Madouas was out the saddle just trying to stay on him. So it wasn't super sort of edge of your seat viewing, but it was really nice to see the French get silver and bronze, and Remco get the gold medal with that absolute money shot, as I believe they call it in the adult entertainment industry, with the Eiffel Tower, the Olympic rings, that big long zoom out. It was pretty cool.
It wasn't without stress though. It was always 3K to go.
Yeah, true. Actually,
you really didn't want to be Remco Evenepoel's mechanic. You wanted to be anywhere else on planet Earth, because he was fully smacking his hands like that, he was smacking, I don't know, like a genie, what we call where you try to manifest something, just poof. Clapping his hands was somehow going to pop a bike out of thin air. Because he had a mechanical or something. You know what? I reckon he probably could have just ridden it, and I reckon he would have won anyway, to be honest with you. His mechanic did alright. Apparently they weren't expecting it, but Remco was just... Obviously, this is what happens when you have no team radios, because...
He did have the hand up, though, if you see the clip. He did, have his hand up first, and that's why I think he got really angry. And then, you said, with the radios, I
don't really know about radios, no radios. Maybe we could talk about that, but this was literally... 2022 world champs, but just in France on a different circuit. I'm sorry, but it just wasn't, for me, it wasn't that great. Evenepoel, after some attacks and counter-attacks by Van der Poel, Van Aert, Pedersen missing the move and trying to come back, everyone was on their knees. Remco does one counter-attack, gets over to the group which had splintered off earlier of secondary favourites, rides them all off the wheel, and solos to victory. It was 2022 world champs, and everybody can agree that that was not an entertaining world champs. So for me, barring the cool money shot, which was a little bit narcissistic or whatever, but it was just a little bit flat for me, to be honest. And I'm sorry about my rustle some feathers, but that's just how I think.
Matt was playing the Aleti Lutsenko of 2022.
There was a brief period where I thought Aleti Lutsenko was going to play Aleti Lutsenko. He was up there in that move, and I thought, wow, it's going to happen. But Madouas definitely played that role, but then they hung on a little bit longer than they should have. And, life imitates art. Laporte won the sprint behind. It was exactly the same as the Wollongong World Championships. Just the other thing here is that there were fans on the circuit, because in Wollongong there were 5 fans and maybe 6 people watching live on television. Nevertheless, my point is it was not as exciting as I think it could have been. And that moment, you could feel the tension coming. That first lap around Montmartre, you saw Van der Poel attack and go with him. And you thought, okay, here, we're just warming up to it. We're warming up to it. And when Evenepoel went, and then you could see the guys look at each other, that was it. You knew it was done. And he goes to the front group, toes them all off, and you think, yeah, this is exactly the same scenario as 2022. And there was never really any doubt in my mind, once he got to that front group, that he was going to win the race. It isn't the best feeling to watch. The women's race, I think, added more suspense in that, because there were kind of ebbs and flows of balances of power. But in the men's race, it just felt like Belgium had the balance of power from 60k to go onwards. While Van Aert was following Mathieu van der Poel, Evenepoel was up in front. There was nothing anyone could really do to stop Belgium from winning.
Right, literally, I knew, like you say, once Evenepoel bridged to that group, I knew from 45 minutes to go that Remco was winning. If you've watched bike racing enough, you know that Remco's just better than most people. He hasn't been putting in the effort as what they've been doing, because they've had to form that group off the front and then work really hard. Remco just did a Remco. And it just feels like, going back to the whole team radios thing, and people, this is a constant discussion in the cycling X/Twitter sphere, that should team radios be allowed or not? And I think after seeing this, it's basically, if you want somebody to solo off to victory, because there's just a little bit of confusion or uncertainty as to the time gaps, then you're in camp, no team radios. But if you want racing, which is a little bit closer and basically just better racing, then you want radios in there, because when you're getting a chalkboard every 10 minutes to inform you about how to race and your tactics, it's that's just what happens when you've got no team radios. And I think I've fallen into the camp of, I think that the radios give better racing, because basically the Netherlands would have known what the gap is, and they would have known that Van Baal needs to get on the front earlier, or just when there's no team radios, Remco just wins basically. So if you like Remco winning, then by all means just go in. You're in camp, no radio. But what do you guys think? Radios, good, bad?
I think I completely agree on the aspect of better racing. I think that team radios, you add in tactics, you add in sort of communication and knowledge, info about what's happening on course and what the route is like. I think it's fairer, given that the rest of the year uses team radios. I don't really quite buy the argument that people are saying that race radios cause more crashes. I think that's bullshit, to be honest.
I think it makes it safer, to be honest.
Yeah, but the UCI are kind of trialing this no race radio in smaller races to see if it's going to minimize crashes, because people are apparently too hyped up and they all seem to want to fight for position with the radios on. I think that doesn't really add up in my books, but what do I know? I'm not a professional cyclist. I also think, and we saw this as well at the weekend, that it's really important for communication between the athletes and the team supporting them. Søren Vadenschold, for instance, crashes on a corner, goes to the side of the road, puts his hand up, waits for the Norwegian car to come past, and it drives past him. There's nothing he can do. And from that point onwards, he walks home. He literally walks off. All the cars go past. It's kind of like the little bit. It was the more like, you remember that Colombian guy crying in 2019 World Championships? That was like the sad version. This is the angry version. Søren Vadenschold like slammed his bike on the ground. He was very angry and just started like just walking off. I think if he had the radio, he would be able to tell the guys like, stop. I need the bike. Similarly as well, you saw a lot of bike changes there, and it took people longer to get back. They don't know where the team car is. They don't know how long they're going to wait. Remco Evenepoel as well had no idea what his time gap was between himself and Madouas when he had that incident at 3K to go, because he doesn't have anyone telling him what the time gap is. First thing he did when he went back in the bike is point to his... he does sort of like a watch hand gesture because he wants to know what the time difference is. And once he finds out, it sort of puts him at ease. I do think it does generally help with the racing. Even Laporte didn't even know that he got a bronze medal when he crossed the line. These are the kind of things that I think just, they're helpful to know. Yeah. And it adds structure, it adds texture to the race.
Yeah. But, the same thing happened with Kimberly Lacourt in the women's race. She had a mechanical early on. Team car drove straight past her, and she was just out of a race at that point. And she's had a very good year. Like, she's had a real breakout season. This would have been an opportunity to, Mauritius to really get in the... I'd say she could have got a top 10, really. She's not that good of a year. So that was really disappointing, and I agree. Yeah, it's just... I also don't buy the thing about safety. Removing it for one race, it's like the mentality of the race radio and how they race is already ingrained. Like, they already have this. It's in their DNA, and their thinking is positioning. When's like the tight corner coming up, battling for the climb. It's a part of them. Removing race radio one time isn't going to make them go, oh, I now no longer think like that, and I am going to, change my whole thinking. It doesn't work like that. I'm not sure if I was a fan of the 4-person teams or not, to be honest with you. I think the outcome would have been the same no matter the team sizes. Maybe if the Netherlands had one extra person, maybe it would have made a difference. Like, they could have closed the gap a bit more. Van der Poel maybe could have bridged across on Montmartre. It's possible, but I think that, just having more people didn't really do anything. It just would have meant more people to control at the start. And eventually it all boils down to the kind of big favourites anyway. 4-man teams or 3-man teams, I don't really know. I don't think it particularly made that much of a difference, but do you guys think it influenced the racing a lot? Would you prefer bigger teams?
I mean, bigger teams feels more reflective of how the rest of the year goes. But there was sort of IOC guidelines to reduce the size of the peloton and to make it equal between men and women. Understandable, but why can't you just increase the size of the peloton for both? They're both, men and women are both used to racing in pelotons of 100, at least 100 riders. I understand that there are riders from smaller nations who don't usually get to ride in sort of the top level races, but they also, some of them ride the World Championships or ride Continental Championships, but they are in groups that are sort of a normal peloton size. I think that definitely would have affected the outcome of the race. Netherlands in particular could have had more people to chase down. I think Denmark were a bit all over the place. If they had a few more riders, it probably would have added more structure. It just, it feels like it was a bit of an odd scenario with there being sort of single riders or riders with just one teammate in there, instead of having sort of a more reflective sort of 6-7-man team for the likes of France, Italy, Slovenia, those kind of bigger countries, and then smaller ones, even like Ecuador just having one. The literal reigning champions of this event, they couldn't even send the reigning champion because they had to only choose one athlete, of which they sent Jonathan Narvaez. So it felt a bit sort of odd, and that did somewhat scar the outcome of the race.
Well, I mean, Remco Evenepoel at the end, we have to also talk that up. I was going to say, if we're going to take regressive steps to the racing, get rid of power meters. That would be more interesting than getting rid of the radios, maybe. But Remco Evenepoel, you don't think?
No, I think power meters is different because they also use that data personally to sort of work out training plans.
But they do
And
that in training. They don't do that
No,
in racing. That's where you
no, but they
perform.
find out the data from the race and how much power that they can output and all this kind of stuff from the
Okay,
race.
the coaches can have that data, but not them.
Yeah. Okay, that's the way of doing it.
But yeah, Remco Evenepoel, double gold medalist, never been done before in the history of the sport.
The women have done it before.
Who? Armstrong?
Sydney 2000. It
Oh,
was
okay.
a Dutch woman. I can't remember the name of.
That's helpful.
Sorry, but it did happen in Sydney 2000 because I saw lots of people getting angry about it online.
Yeah, but why? We were talking about the men's. We weren't talking about, yeah, whatever. Let's not go down there. Ewan's already triggered a lot of people with the intro. But this has to be one of his greatest achievements, maybe, or is there a bit of, I don't know. If you're going to rank these 2 gold medals as his highest achievements, are they above his 3rd place in the Tour, World Championships, his Vuelta a España, his Liège-Bastogne-Lièges, or is this not even near the top 5?
I mean, Tour of Poland victory in 2020.
Tour of Denmark, there we go, number 1 right there.
No, genuinely, like we spoke about it last week. He's won every single he's won nationals, continentals, worlds, and Olympics. In road racing, he's won all of them. Apart from Europeans, he came second in that as a senior, won as a junior. That's the only thing missing there to complete that. Once he now has to go to the European Championships and just absolutely hammer it and try to see if he can get anywhere. This year it's in the cobbled course that looks a little bit like a sort of Flemish classic. So it'd be cool to see if he goes to that and tries to target it. But it's probably up there as one of his big achievements. I'm sorry that that's not a super concise answer, but I think it depends what you... As a cycling fan, I'd like to think the World Championships and winning a Grand Tour is bigger than winning the Olympics, but the Olympics transcends a lot of cycling. Like, everyone knows the Olympics. He's currently got 2 golds to Belgium. They don't have many gold medals. It's a big deal for them. I just feel like the Olympics to some people will be a bigger deal. I think it depends what you want out of the sport. But World Championships, Olympics, I guess Olympics by default because they only come once every 4 years. That probably gets precedence. So perhaps it is his best result.
I mean, considering that this Olympic title and his World Champs road title were won in essentially the same way, but this one is a bit sparser in terms of kind of a regularity of the event. I'll say that the Olympic one, I think, means more to me. I mean, he gets to wear something gold for the next 4 years. I mean, do you remember anything from Greg van Avermaet's career other than him being Golden Greg? You know,
Renato Adriatico,
no, everybody remembers just Golden Greg. That's just the way it works. Do you reckon Remco will get a different pizza now? Made for him.
What would they put on it?
What would be on it? Gold leaf. What's gold? What can you put on pizza that's gold?
But this is Pizza Hut. It's not.
Would it be like you could do like a pizza, but it's got like the Eiffel Tower in the background, made of pepperoni or something?
Oh gosh.
Anyway,
what else is gold? I mean, just like a lot of cheese. Like, you know, the Americans will understand this reference. Velveeta, like that kind of like plastic American style cheese, just that smothered across it. That would look very golden. But
doesn't sound appetizing.
No, it sounds like it's very high in cholesterol, not great for you. But I don't think Remco Evenepoel even eats those pizzas anyway. But that's besides the point.
I was going to say, what's next for Remco Evenepoel? Because he's also been rumored to be starting Milan-San Remo and Tour of Flanders next year.
This is very strongly rumored, and it has been for a while, but it's looking a lot more likely. And also Evenepoel as well is hinting that he's going to be targeting new things and riding new races next year that he's very excited about. Ronda, I would imagine, is the one he's most excited about. And judging by the fact that he won a race that was very similar in distance and very similar in altitude gain to Ronde van Vlaanderen, he will have to start as a favourite next year. The Olympic group is quite similar to Ronda in terms of those attributes, and Soudal Quickstep, we know them. They have a good history in this race. They haven't been doing very well in the past couple of years. They need a strong leader to sort of help them stand out. Evenepoel is that man. I don't know if Pogacar is going to be targeting him next year. I think Pogacar and Remco have that kind of similar edge. But I think Remco will be a really fascinating element to watch in the Ronde van Vlaanderen. I don't quite think Remco's sort of style and his tactics suit Milan-San Remo. Those long-distance attacks never work in San Remo. And I quite frankly do not want to have a discussion in March about whether Remco Evenepoel could win from an attack at the Cipressa. I know it's going to be taken over Twitter in the build-up, but I'm just tired of talking about riders attacking on the Cipressa. It just doesn't work. But Ronda, for me, I think is a really big target and a very, very likely target for him to do well at.
Actually, he's going to obviously one of the most, rumored to be going to one of the most prestigious stage races of them all, the Tour of Britain. That's it. It's about, I think that is what is actually next for him. Obviously actually some of those stages were announced this week. There is a start and finish in Kelso, which is quite exciting in a way. I don't know.
Hobble finish there.
Yeah. So can Oscar Onley be starting? He has to.
That's quite literally his hometown. But yeah, I mean, the Tour of Britain route as well, it's a couple rolling stages, but it's a lot of flat. I don't really understand why he's going to Tour of Britain. To be honest, there's no time trial. It seems like a strange preparation for the Worlds, but he could be going to Quebec. I think those Quebec Classics would have been a much better fit if he's targeting the Worlds.
The jet lag. It's going to be crazy, no?
So he's going to ride in a flat stage around Suffolk.
And North Yorkshire. North Yorkshire. Go back to Saltburn. They love Saltburn now.
They're doing that They're doing that
Saltburn.
Stage 2, but that stage 2 is 1 day of a 5-day race. Yes, the race is only 5 days.
Is it not 6?
It's short.
I thought it was 6.
It's 5 days, I believe. I wrote an article about the route. I think it's 5 days. I wrote it about a month ago, so it's quite back at the head. But there's a stage in...
I've got 6 stages here.
What? Is it 6?
It's 6 stages, it's not 5.
They had one.
Starting in Kelso, like you said, and finishing in Flexstowe.
Oh, Felixstowe, yeah. That's in Suffolk. Why have we not won a stage there before? Nevertheless, what do I know? I should research things instead of banking on my memory. But I just don't really understand the point. It's not going to be a high level of racing. It's not very similar in terms of its profile to the World Championships. Make it make sense, please.
Yeah, it is more... The World Champs route this year is more into the GP Montreal, especially, I think, as opposed to Suffolk. Let's just put it that way. I mean, World Champs, he's probably got a decent shot. I guess that's the natural progression. That'll be the next big goal, is to try and double up in both of those. It'll be interesting to see Remco versus Poggi in a one-day setting, finally, because they seem to have just been avoiding each other, like trying to put the same end of magnets together. So it'll actually be interesting to see kind of their strategies, because they're both long-distance attackers. They've got a fastest finish, but I'd say Poggi's got a slight edge, so it's going to force attacks from Remco. And I think it'll be an interesting battle this year. It sounds bad to think that almost nobody else is coming to mind to contest them in the World Champs. Nobody's really springing to mind.
I can't really throw a name either, but we'll see how the Vuelta goes. Maybe someone arises in that race. But what's next for him? I think the classics. We have Ronda coming up. They're also, I think, sort of bagging some more stage races. Doesn't actually have that many UCI 1 week long stage races in his Palmares at the moment. So I think trying to win Paris-Nice, where he got unstuck this year by Jorgensen, for instance, maybe even Tirreno, depends how it all works out, and just sort of try to build up and sort of add more of these stage races to his Palmares, because I think he's a really good one-day racer. He's a really good international event racer. But if you look back past that and look around tours in his sort of stage racing and GC Palmares, it's a little bit bare. And I think if he gets more practice at that, he could definitely try to hit the ground better at the Tour de France next year to beat Pogacar and Vingegaard. Because I think he proved this year that he's not that far off them.
You think it's bare? He's won like Vuelta Burgos twice.
Vuelta
Algarve 3 times.
That's not World Tour. These are not World Tour events.
Yeah, but it's still... You were saying stage races out overall, and yeah, I do agree with the World Tour.
Overall,
it's a bit thin on the ground.
The GC classification, but these are not World Tour races. In that case, let's look towards, who's a great GC rider? Sam Bennett, because he won the Cajou de Dunkel.
He's got a point.
I don't think he does, but
he just needs
Yeah, no, I agree.
I-
Ewan's right. He needs to win Paris-Nice-Treno, but
Yeah, it just
he
needs
do that.
that early season confidence, kind of one of those big ones. Yeah, like,
Tour Down Under.
oh God, okay. He's not Australian, and he just can't win that. And it's not Isaac Del Toro. I think Remco, yeah, if he wins a Paris-Nice-Treno, yeah, it's cool. But I mean, ultimately, the big goal for him will be, yeah, I think Flanders mainly, and then the Tour. Like it just has to be. That'll be the two big races, I think, and then just continuously like world champs, all day, every day. That'll be like his 3 goals, kind of nicely interspersed throughout the year.
I've seen some discourse about the fact that Remco should win the Giro next year, and should ride the Giro, could win it, instead of doing the Tour, because does he want to settle for third place behind Vingegaard and Pogacar? We know he's close, as he showed this year. Is he going to be closer next year? We don't know. If he goes to Giro, then wins that, bags it into the Palmares, and then returns to the Tour de France in 2026, the year after next. Is that the best strategy going forward? I saw lots of people argue that it is, because it's not worth building your whole season up to get third place at a Tour de France when you could win another Grand Tour. Maybe he does a Giro Vuelta and tries to win those two.
What I feel like that exact train of thought is how Primož Roglic's career has gone, which is basically, I'm going to win stuff around the Tour, but it's fine, guys. I'll return to the Tour and win it. And then it just... But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can understand people saying, oh, you know, what's the point in going for third place of the Tour? It's like, because third place of the Tour is still pretty important. And I do think that Remco will have gained quite a lot from this third place of the Tour this year, even if it was up against a Jonas, which hampered preparation, but it was against an absolutely flying Pogacar, like probably the best GC performance in modern time, people might say. You know, a lot of the numbers and stuff coming out of it that people were reverse calculating or whatever were, you know, some of the best ones ever. And Remco was very good this year, and I think that, I'm not sure if next year he will beat them, even with like perfect prep and the experience he's gained here, but I think he will get better, and I think he will close the gap a little bit. And I think it's that which he's got to kind of keep living off of to try and win a Tour. And then whether he goes for the Giro or not, I mean, maybe he does go for Giro. It worked for Poggi this year. Maybe Remco might take hope from that, but I would say that he's probably going to go for the Tour. Especially if he wants to do Flanders. I think the Flanders going into the Giro is just like a bit of I'm not sure if people consider that to be a bit too risque. And yeah, I just think he'll go for the Tour. I think he's got Tour fever. He loved it too much.
Exactly. I feel sometimes when they start the Tour and they get a bit of a smell and a taste for the Tour, they remain there for the rest of their careers. And it is the biggest race in the world, and the team has invested a lot in putting him there. That is the long-term plan, is for him to podium and hopefully win more Tours de France in the end.
It depends who goes to the Giro, I guess. And also how, well, obviously just things out of...
Anyways, we'll go shifted more towards another subject. This is something that Ewan was touching on before the show. And so Patrick has a very enthralling, passion for. Ineos Grenadiers are apparently in crisis. And what's the story?
Let me get the quote up, because I don't want to misquote.
I love this Bigham quote. It's pure light.
It's so scathing.
I love it. Somebody, like, he's just got like the balls just to like say it how it is and just call them out. I love it.
Yeah, so the story kind of has developed over the past couple of days. There's lots being talked about in terms of Jim Ratcliffe and his interest in Manchester United, the football team, as the football transfer market opened almost simultaneously to the cycling transfer market. Also, as well, whilst he's been in Paris preparing for the Olympic Games, Dan Bigham, one of the performance directors at Ineos Grenadiers, who's appeared on the Cycling Day channel before in the Cycling Day Extra, he revealed that he would be quitting his job at Ineos Grenadiers. There is a pretty scathing quote in an interview given to The Telegraph. It is, quote, "How I want to do performance is not in line with how Ineos wanted to go. I feel that a lot of performance we're leaving on the table, and that frustrates me. It's clear we should be doing things better." It's clear we should be doing things better. That's a pretty sort of damning quote from the man who's supposed to be your performance director, and with lots of sort of internal sort of strange things happening at Ineos Grenadiers. You had sort of comments before the Tour de France. Tom Pidcock said he was happy that Steve Cummings was reporting on the race remotely instead of being on the ground. And now as well, I mean, we're not really deep in, we're not going to, well, we'll jump to the gun on transfers, but Tom Pidcock as well, over the past 2 weeks, has been rumoured to be potentially available on the market in the next couple of weeks, leaving Ineos Grenadiers following disagreements over his future goals as well. And Ineos will be happy to let him lead the team, and also, strange enough, to pay his contract elsewhere if he did want to leave. This is all from sort of sources and transfer gurus, but it's not been sort of the most swimming week in Ineos Grenadiers, who have sort of bolstered their roster with 2 signings of Victor Laialotti and Bob Jungels. Big week for the micronations. They're Monegasque.
3 apparently. 3. Patrick said you have got another rider.
They're bringing in another 18-year-old. Don't you worry. Another Dane who won the Calderats KOM. So they're basically just trying to... This is what I said to you, Scott. They're 3 years behind the curve. They're trying to sign Jonas Vingegaard, but they've missed a boat.
They're trying to sign Jonas Vingegaard, and they're trying to bring in Bob Jungels from 2018. And it just seems odd signing Bob Jungels at this point in his career. And also Victor Laialotti. I'm mostly aware of him because he's Monegasque. I'll be honest. Being from a small country, I look out for you. His results, they're fine. He's a breakaway guy. But when have Ineos ever needed that? Ineos do not sign riders like Laialotti. He's an okay climber, but he's not really a star. He doesn't have that much potential. He's 29 years old. I'm really baffled by that signing, to be honest. And I think it's just pointing towards strange future ahead at Ineos Grenadiers.
I do wonder how long Bigham has had this opinion of like Ineos' performance. Like, is this just is it a last 6 months? Is it a last year? Is it more than that? It'd be interesting to see where the correlation begins, because Ineos has definitely, I think, been on a little bit of a downward trajectory. I'd say the last 2 years, there's just been a little bit of a change, I think, and I do wonder whether that is correlates with Bingham's disquiet. Perhaps it'd be interesting to hear if maybe he says more about it. But obviously, it's not good for Ineos, because he is he's the guy who basically started really focusing in on their aero. He was the guy who basically introduced these ridiculously big helmets into the pro peloton, which are now very commonplace. He has been very instrumental towards what Ineos is, which is basically like a time trialing team. That is really the core of their worth, is that they win time trials an awful lot. They get riders in the top 10 of TTs in Grand Tours and stage races just all over the shop. It's what they're really good at. So Bigham leaving is definitely going to, I think, leave Ineos a little bit in the dust. If they're not going to be at the absolute cutting edge of time trialing, then what are they? They're just, honestly, they're basically just Bahrain victorious. Then they are, in my opinion, without Bigham and his development towards their TT, I think they're just basically on the same level as Bahrain. Are they not?
I think Pippo Ganna adds something for me. I think he's
true,
because he is a
Tarling.
Tarling as well, yeah.
But how long are they going to want to hang around if they know that they're not on the winning equipment?
That's the thing, and it's Tarling and it's Pippo. Carlos Rodriguez is fine. He's still young, to be fair, but Pidcock might be leaving. But I think Pidcock's overaged on the road. We're not going to open that debate. But they need to do something. They're running out of time to show interest in riders that need a contract for next year, and they can't keep signing children. because Lord knows they keep picking up these kids. I don't know what scouting they're doing. We had that quote that Radcliffe gave about sort of, we want to find the new Kylian Mbappe. We don't want to buy Kylian Mbappe. They're kind of like transferring that into cycling, and they're just like buying all these kids, hoping that maybe, one sticks. UAE did it for a while and it worked, and now UAE are the people who keep buying the best children. Them and Visma are sort of nurturing them. Sorry, buying children is a really strange sentence, but like finding talent. So like UAE are really good at finding talent, and then Visma are really good at nurturing the talent. Maybe Ineos should put their money into a development team instead of just offering these 18-year-olds contracts to be on their senior team, just to, save some space. They're operating on a €50 million budget anyway. Come on.
Literally. We've wanted for so long a development team, haven't we? Like, we've been badgering on about this, I feel like, for a year and a half at least. But I agree. I don't get why they're signing 18-year-olds. It's like Leo Hayter, Michael Leonard. Where are you? Is it not time for them to step up to the plate? Like, how long do we give these young guns from that were signed 2 years ago that were the big wig, the hottest thing on the market? How long do you give them before you start expecting results outside of the Tour of Hungary or the Sibiu Tour from them? I just feel like time's running out. And I don't get why these 18-year-olds even decide that going to Ineos is a bad move. It's just a massive red flag. Can you not see that other teenage talent that's gone to Ineos hasn't performed over the last 2-3 years? They are not good at nurturing talent. Like, name somebody. There's Sheffield. You can argue Sheffield, but I just don't think that Ineos are good at nurturing talent. I just don't think that's the place to go. If you sign up there as an 18-year-old, you are going to be done by 25.
Sorry, absolutely insane 100 meters race.
Yeah, I was just watching it as well. Jesus Christ.
It was an actual photo finish.
Yeah, it is confirmed.
Yeah, the American guy won, but the Jamaican thought he won to begin with.
Oh,
and then it got put up on the big screen. Oh, they got the same time.
Did they?
Yeah. Oh, and the person who came in third was 0.03 behind.
Jeez.
That's insanely close. What? That's also a really fast race. People don't.
That was actually just such a good time for me to go on a rant.
I'm leaving this in, by the way. This is funny.
Bro, it's because it's so true. Ineos needs to get their shit together. It's just ridiculous. It's laughable how much they are floundering behind people and still living under the false pretense that they are some top dog GC team. When Geraint Thomas retires, they are going to be left high and dry. They are.
What is the solution? I mean, we touched on this in the Transfer Talk series of the Cycling Day and Extra and podcast, shamelessly plugging, that they should sign Juan Ayuso. He's the messiah to this Ineos crisis.
He genuinely could be. He's someone on the market, well, not really in the market, but could be in the market, we're hearing, that could actually, give them a little bit of GC direction. But then Rodriguez and Ayuso, they've worked together as I don't want to say children again, but they used to ride together as Spanish riders. They're very similar in age. Rodriguez is maybe 1 or 2 years older, but they did Tour de l'Ave together. They've done these kind of races. They know each other. I don't think it's sort of crazy to imagine them being on the same team. But then, does Ayuso want to share leadership again? We don't know. It seemed like he wasn't too happy with that at the Tour de France, but he also did sign up to support Pogačar at the Tour de France. So bear that in mind. It just seems odd. And then also the Pidcock rumors coming out as well seem really quite damning as well. The fact that Pidcock is pretty much, it really seems like it could be on the table that Pidcock could be leaving. He's paid €2 and a bit million per year. And then there's bonuses on top of that. That's a pretty big chunk of the salary. They can sign many 17-year-olds with that. But it would also probably release a bit of friction. Pidcock is not an easy person to work with. So I think that would probably sort of ease the friction at Ineos Grenadiers. potentially just make them a little bit sort of more streamlined and more functional going forward. I know Pidcock is their poster boy, but if it's just not going to work out, it's not going to work out. Ferrand Perot as well is going to be leaving Ineos. She's, also the Olympic mountain biking world champion. We haven't spoken about that race that happened as well. But she won the women's cross country.
I think we did this last week.
Did we talk about mountain biking last week?
we talked about her. We talked about her leaving. But yeah, it's true. We haven't actually talked about both the mountain bike races. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Two goals from Ineos.
Yeah, exactly. But both of them are now rumored to be leaving. Ferrand Perot really strongly rumored, and she also said that she wants to win the Tour de France. We spoke about that last week. It just seems sort of like, the tide is turning a little bit. That Ineos might be losing some stars. Maybe that's why they're signing Victor Langelotti.
Yeah, true. I think that if you just give it a couple of years and Ghana's well, actually, we're not on the fastest equipment anymore. We're not at the cutting edge, and I am starting to not TT victories aren't coming as easily because some lacking aero gains. I reckon it wouldn't be long before Ghana would get swept up by. He might go back to UAE. I mean, it's easy to forget, but he actually started his career a few years ago at that team. It wouldn't surprise me that if you remove just a few people from our Ineos team, it's just Cofidis. That's basically where we're at. I know it's a big ouch, but we're talking facts.
I just think the return on investment, that the money they're putting in, they're not getting anything out of it, in my humble opinion. But with all these super teams and guys on super long contracts, I think it is harder to stand out as a team. It's harder to sort of break through. Red Bull, you can see they're trying to do it, but they're struggling. Potentially with some more signings that they're going to make, they could do that next year. Little Trek as well, trying to become a super team. Big budget increase. Decathlon Agedezin had that big increase a couple of years back, and don't necessarily get the return on that investment that you think it would yield. For Ineos, I just think it might just be a big change of management might be needed, because tactically they're not winning as many races as they used to, and they probably should be up there more.
Yeah, I also feel like it's a momentum thing. When you see Ineos not winning as much, and it's like a downward spiral a little bit, you can definitely tell that as a rider being this isn't the place to be anymore. And whereas other teams like a Lidl Trek or a Red Bull or a Hansgrohe, you can tell there's more of a boisterousness. You can tell they're on the rise. Whereas Ineos just feels like a grand team left in the past, just kind of living off kind of what the team used to be rather than what the team is now. And it's just this token giant that's
Manchester United, which Jim Radcliffe is also involved in.
Yeah, it is a little bit crazy how comparable the two are. But I don't really know what Ineos could do from here. They need to really kind of turn things around, or just hope that one of these kind of young junior riders comes through, because they seem to be signing loads of them. We need to hope that one of them does something. And as strategies based off of hope are not good.
Magnus Sheffield, great rider, but a couple of years back, and we kind of knew he was good beforehand. Who else? They brought Ben Turner, domestic scene, that kind of thing. They're not bringing in, you don't have international stars that are smashing through the ranks. Kim Hajduk, seriously, keeps getting fielded to big races, but I'm seeing zilch in return. It's maybe that Danish wonder kid is maybe that is the magic answer, because they need someone with insane stats, but also they need to get the next Tour de l'Avenir champ, or sort of one of these riders that really shines there. I know they brought in Ethan Hayter after winning the Baby Giro, but he hasn't done much, and they need to probably put more faith in. Look what UAE have done with Del Toro. Put him into these big races. They kind of say, ride your own race. If you're a leader, we'll help you. And boom, it's really yielded responses. He's finished in the top 10 of 3 UCI World Tour stage races this year, and he's only just won Tour de l'Ave last year. I think Ineos probably just need to be a little bit more malleable with their strategy and their approach to younger riders. They've never been good at nurturing young talent, but now a bit of an anomaly. Ghana a bit of an anomaly, but Ghana is also just a super talent in terms of time trialing. Like, people don't come to Ineos or Team Sky as a young rider expecting to sort of break through there. You go there in your prime years or in your late years. They've tried to change that, but it's just not really working. And they're showing no signs of wanting for that to change. The one sign we did get of it changing, the classic season last year and in 2022, when we saw Mount Sheffield winning Brabantse Pijl, Ben Turner really breaking through. That seemed like a bit of a sign that things were changing and they were allowing these younger riders the chance to shine. But since then, I'm not seeing much.
Anyways, on that high note, love letter to Ineos Grenadiers, I guess. We might as well do a segment that we didn't do last week. We've got Rider of the Week.
Wait, should we do a brief roundup of transfers?
Okay, you can have your brief roundup. It is confirmation time, of course.
It is. The watershed broke this week.
Is it Guillaume Martin? Is that who you want to talk about? The professor?
No, I actually I'm not super enthralled at Guillaume Martin leaving. I thought Cofidis worked quite well for him. Cofidis have signed a couple big riders. Dylan Turns, which I don't think, did you guys see that coming? I didn't hear any rumors about that at all. So that was a bit left field.
Especially with Israel going up to World Tour. So it's
they've still got another year before that happens.
Oh, okay.
But Cofidis are probably set to move down.
Yeah.
He prefers the pro-continental scene.
Yeah, maybe.
In his announcement statement, he said, I want to become the first Cofidis rider to win a monument since Frank Vandenbroucke.
My word, that is some high aspiration.
Exactly. I was like, you're mentioning a pretty sort of an interesting character, but one that's pretty sort of, tumultuous. And then you're saying you want to win a monument? That's just not going to happen. He's not been close to winning a monument in a while. Also, as well with Cofidis, they've signed in Valentin Ferrand, who won a stage of Dauphiné in 2022. A rider from Vienne, just south of Lyon. And they've also brought in Sylvain Monique, as well as Damien Tuzet, a rider who I always think of as the man who has orgy as a surname in French. But nevertheless, we've also had Simon Yates. That was finally announced going to Visma. Florian Vermees going to UAE Team Emirates. That was strongly rumoured. Giulia Pellizzari as well going to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Lily Martinez going to Bahrain. There's a rider from Panama that is going to Cortec, which is pretty cool. In Carlos Samudio. To be fair, I think we're kind of waiting for the big twists and turns. Everything's been quite pedestrian. Dylan Turns was the big surprise, but every transfer season we have that one that we just do not expect. Who's that going to be? What's it going to be?
A user to Ineos. It's happening. I mean, Patrick called Simon Yates to Visma Leasebike. So, I mean, Patrick, are you feeling it in the forces? Are you feeling it?
Yeah, I don't know how. That was such an odd one. I think. I said it just in our transfer talk one, but it makes sense, but I doubt it would happen. But Pidcock would make a lot of sense at Alpecin-de-Koenig.
Yes.
Because he actually would, because he would get the mountain biking and he'd get the cyclocross, because Van der Poel doesn't do all of them. Pidcock can fill in the ones which Van der Poel doesn't, and they don't really have a big Ardennes leader, Quentin Hermans. So Pidcock would actually work at Alpecin. I just don't see it happening, but I would like to see it happen.
Currently, Alpecin are not in the discussions, or at least the rumours of discussions over Pidcock, but I could totally see that. I think Pidcock going to Red Bull, I think there's definitely blood in the water here, and I know that there's a lot of friction between Pidcock and Ineos staff. And from things I've heard from colleagues and things I've heard from the peloton circles, is that people find Pidcock really hard to work with. And I have a feeling that a sort of a breakup there could be happening. And Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe makes sense because he personally is affiliated with Red Bull. They also, they had Koretsky who got the silver medal. They let him do all the mountain biking stuff as well. And they have more sort of multidiscipline athletes. And the team really wants to wants to push this. And I think Pidcock, as a double Olympic mountain bike champion, if Ralph Think goes to Mr. Red Bull, Mathieu shit, or whatever his name is.
Who is fast on, unfortunately.
What else the name of the plane?
My bad. Well, whoever now runs Red Bull, if they went to him and said, you know what, we have this double Olympic mountain biking champion, it really fits with that image. He does cyclocross. He's had this viral, crazy descent on the Côte d'Olivier. I think that they'd be willing to make the investment because that's a huge deal for the team. Little Trek, I think, will be harder because it's not quite. I mean, they have more multidiscipline athletes, but they don't have that big budget yet. I think Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe, they just have huge money investors who also know what the whole sort of sports marketing and extreme sports marketing deal is. And if they want to get him, they will.
And Patrick, you're not allowed to say anything more because you're not allowed to overstep your transfer talks thing here. Yeah. So if you want to hear what Patrick has to say about this, you have to listen to transfer talks.
I'll stay on my quota.
Right of the week. Can we now do it?
The tease. I'm going to jump in with Valter Madouas getting second at the Olympic road race. But I got a picture of him at the end of in the hotel in Valois at the end of stage 4, which is really cool to now have a picture with a Olympic medalist. That's kind of cool. So maybe it's like a bit of a personal pick. Maybe it's a little bit biased, but I think Madouas rode a good race. Like, he infiltrated the move. He was the only one able to survive when the bullet that is Remco Evenepoel came across. And I was rooting so hard for Madouas to get second when he was just like hanging on, holding off that second group. So yeah, maybe it's more of like a heart pick rather than like a kind of logical one, but Madouas is my rider of the week.
It was cool the way he was so shocked when he came across the line. And I don't know if you guys saw the Marc Mathieu commentary. He is just absolutely screaming down the mic. He's doing French television commentary, and he's absolutely screaming like, "Take on, like do it for the country. It's fantastic. Like, you're so big today. You're gonna be like a star," all that kind of stuff to Madouas. You can't even hear him, but he's usually shouting down the radio to him in the normal team car. So it's like kind of good to see it have that personal connection. And Madouas, he's a really nice guy as well. That's like. And a Breton rider from real cycling who landed in France. For me, though, I'm going to pick... I mean, Ben Healy had one of the races of his life. If he just rode a little bit smarter, but I think that might be biased because I am a bit of a Ben Healy fan. Oh, snooze fest. I'm going to go for Kristen Faulkner because she did win the women's race. Probably the first Alaskan to ever win the Olympic gold in cycling. I can't think of any other Alaskans. But Kristen Faulkner, she knew what her strength was. And I think... she played everyone else really well. She wore down Kopecky because Kopecky knew if she could make the bridge, she could win the race. So sort of wore down Kopecky. And then once they made the junction, it was that typical thing where they all start looking at each other. They got 2.5, 3K to go. And you have three people who have all got really good sprints in Vash, Boss, and Kopecky. It was really sort of a coin flip between them. And Faulkner knew, boom, if I drill it off the front, I can win this. And she won a Vuelta stage in a very similar style earlier on this year. And the group were naive to not let her do that. And she completely committed to the move. And it paid off. And she's an Olympic champion. She's got a really cool backstory in terms of where she was before cycling and how she got to professional cycling. But now, she's been mentioned in the podcast before.
I know the podcast, apparently. She's a fan of the podcast. She's a listener sometimes.
She did reach out to us following that name drop. But I'm going to give her the ride of the week. God Save America, Star Spangled Banner.
This is you and kind of extending an olive branch.
Exactly. This is. I know we're gonna get some Pidcock on the podcast soon, so we can all work it out in the remix, as Charlie XCX would say.
Oh my gosh, this is our way in. We just insult people first.
I mean, it wasn't even insulting. It was just stating what every media outlet had said.
Wait. Ewan's tried his hardest. We're just gonna.
Okay, I feel like the Olympics, you always try and watch different sports, or I do anyway, and I was absolutely captivated by the BMX. So my rider is going to be Jordi's Daudet of France, because they did a 1-2-3 of the podium. That was quite incredible. I know it's not road cycling, and sorry, Remco Evenepoel, I feel like you should be getting the rider of the week, being a double gold medalist, but we've chosen not to do that. But Jordi's Daudet is my rider of the week, because that 1-2-3 for the BMX was really cool.
That was absolutely insane. Like, the atmosphere afterwards, it was a full podium suite. They're just going crazy. Everyone in the crowd,
one of them threw the bike after the race, just threw the bike away.
Insane atmosphere. Like, it would have been so cool to be there and watch it. Yeah. And also the whole BMX, like the BMX racing, great viewing, great event. Let's keep that in the Olympics.
I was honestly, it's the first time we've had a BMX. We've had cyclocross. I think I'm fair to say we've had mountain bikes somewhere, but I don't think we've ever mentioned BMX in Rider of the Week. That is a first.
Well, there we go. But anyways, with that, that's basically it for our episode 73. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel here as well, and check us out on Spotify. And also, if you want to see more of Patrick or Ewan on Twitter, they're very vocal there, so subscribe to them as well down below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.